Bear down, Chicago Bears. Guess what? We've got a wild controversy starting to erupt overnight. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell to be notified on the way in. Adam Schefter has said this, and it's getting kind of crazy here right now. But he says that the Bears have talked about serious discussions, by the way, about keeping Justin Fields and taking Caleb Williams in the NFL draft. And the question is, could you see that happening? Well, I think the question is, can Justin Fields see that happening? Because there doesn't seem to be, in my mind, any sort of situation in which Justin Fields would want to be the gatekeeper and be told that, hey, man, it's just not working out. We're going to draft this other quarterback, but we want you to kind of sit here and train him, if you will. We want him to be on the bench behind you. Now, at $6 million, do you consider that to be like? Are you supposed to be a gracious player? Are you supposed? This is a very difficult sort of situation, and Justin Fields reputationally has been a team player for the entirety of his career, done everything he could for the Chicago Bears in that context. So it's a very weird sort of conversation that's going to have to be held about what they're going to do. But they have had these conversations internally, it appears. Now, we've got some reporting on that, and it said that the Bears have talked about the idea, as unlikely as it seems, of carrying both quarterbacks, taking the guy at one and keeping Fields. Now, will they get to do that? It's hard to imagine that, but that's a conversation that's coming up within the organization. That's what's. It would take a historic haul, which is another thing that came up to move off of the number one pick. So a lot of conflicting sort of interest here about what's going to happen with Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. And look, I want to break this down for you as best I can. And I'm guessing just like anybody else, but when you're out here telling people and you're letting people know and you have sources, look, the way that business works, it's very simple. When you have information that you want other people to know about, you leak it to the public. When you leak it to the public, you're letting people know, hey, I'm willing to play ball, but you have to be willing to play ball as well. So if Ian Rappaport's sources are getting information that says, hey, we would be willing to trade this number one pick, but it's going to take a lot. They're letting you know they're willing to trade number one, that they're not sold on whatever you think is the number one prospect. And by the way, if you guys remember, over and over again, I've been doing mock drafts. We're going to go over my mock draft of the day. And I'm here to tell you, in the mock drafts, up until just recently, up until just a few days ago, Caleb Williams and Drake May seem to go 1 and 2 on every single draft. Today, I did it 3 times because I thought I saw something yesterday and the day before that I was like, well, that's kind of weird. So I did it 3 different times. Caleb Williams was selected in one of them, 12th overall. Caleb Williams was selected in another of them, number 6 overall. And Caleb Williams was selected, I want to say, number 4 overall in the final win. And then I started doing my draft, and I got cold feet because I didn't want to lose out on my historic haul. And I wanted to make sure that I got my guy. And you know who went number 1 in every one of those drafts? Marvin Harrison Jr. Every single one of those drafts had the same thing. They had Marvin Harrison Jr. going at number 1. Now, the number 2 was Joe Alt in one. Actually, it was Joe Alt in 2 of them, and it was Drake May in the third one. And then in the third position, Malik Neighbors, and then Jaden Daniels, and then I want to say, actually, I think Jaden Daniels went twice in both of those. So he was being picked as the number 3 quarterback in this draft, which is ironic because isn't that where Patrick Mahomes was? For all of you Caleb Maxis that are out there, you got your wish. The 3rd quarterback in the draft is now the good guy. So anyway, very weird stuff going on here. But Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, the drama continues. It's unfolding as we watch every single day. Unbelievable that it's happening. Now, let's move on to the defense for a little while. We talk a lot about Justin Fields, and I got a lot of stuff, by the way, on Justin Fields. And, some of this stuff, you don't look at it in the same context. So you're going to be shocked when you see some of this stuff that I'm going to lay out for you over the next, let's call it 40 minutes or so. Because it's wild when you really start to put these pieces together, and you have to look at, this is a tapestry, right? Like who is it that you are? What is it that you do? And do you have the talent around you to be successful? And I would argue that when I really looked at the Chicago Bears the last couple of years, oh my God, we were bad. I mean, like historically bad, I want to say. And like it's not even close. I'm going to show you just a little bit. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, the bell to be notified on your way in. It seems to me like it was just absolutely crazy. Um, and let's put this out here. Caleb. And by the way, I do want to point out that there's a lot of love coming for Justin Fields, and that love is coming directly from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers absolutely all in. It looks like on Caleb Williams at this, or on Justin Fields at this point. Absolutely, absolutely going crazy. And you like living in a world of simulation. We're all living in a simulation, aren't we? Isn't that what we heard? Like we were told that, right? So it must be true. Elon Musk even said, "Oh, there's like a 0.9 percent chance. So 1 out of 1,000 or whatever the number is. So obviously we're living in that one, and we're in the simulation, and crazy stuff." No, he was not. He was not. He was picked number 16, I want to say. The number one quarterback was number 2, and that was Mitchell Trubisky. And the number 3 quarterback was Deshaun Watson. Patrick Mahomes was the 3rd quarterback selected in that draft. Here, Trubisky draft class was 2017 draft results were there we go. Mitchell Trubisky was selected at number 2. Oh, never mind. God damn it. I must have lost my mind. Deshaun Watson. Yeah, that was the one that annoyed the hell out of me. Deshaun Watson should have been the number 2 guy. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you were right. But it drives me crazy that Deshaun Watson, like I'll put it this way. In my mind, Deshaun Watson's still the best quarterback in that draft, even though he hasn't really had. And by the way, if you go look at the tape, like I really still think that Deshaun Watson was probably the best one. Now, ladies, you might have a different opinion of Deshaun Watson than I do, but as far as it goes, Deshaun Watson, I think, was the best quarterback in that draft, and underserved on very, very poor teams. The Kansas City was in it was a perfect storm. And not to say that there's anything wrong with Patrick Mahomes. By the way, Patrick Mahomes has performed incredibly, and he was obviously worth every penny that they spent, and worth every draft pick analysis that they did. But I would still say that in my mind, Deshaun Watson probably had the bigger upside. Let's say that I think he had the bigger upside. Deshaun Watson on that same team, probably we'd be looking at Deshaun Watson most likely the same way that we're currently looking at Patrick Mahomes, in my estimation, ladies notwithstanding. So anyway, let's get into the defense, and let's look a little bit at what the new defensive coordinator Eric Washington will bring to the Bears. So now he is part of the Rod Marinelli staff, right? So his career began in Chicago in 2009. That year, Rod Marinelli walked into Hallis Hall and joined Coach Lovie Smith as the Bears' assistant head coach, defensive line coach. I remember Lovie telling me about Washington, and he said, "I think you're going to really enjoy this guy. He's your type of guy, and he wants to work. Just a terrific man, hungry, all those things. Bright, very bright. So we got working together. It was really enjoyable." And he says that Marinelli and Washington had a good group to work with at Hallis Hall. And by the way, this is a who's who of Chicago Bears. Like, oh my God, I remember every one of these guys. Like, man, oh man, oh man, what a great defense this was. And by the way, I don't even remember exactly how this ended, but Tommy Harris, Alex Brown, Israel Adonijah, Adewale Ogunle, Henry Melton. I mean, Jesus, this was a murderer's row. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Bears went 11-5 and won the NFC North in the 2010 season. They had one of the league's best defenses, but that season will always be remembered for its finish. Jay Cutler's injury in the NFC Championship game and a loss to the Green Bay Packers. If you remember, Jay Cutler did not come back from injury, and people were calling him weak and et cetera, et cetera. So got a different reputation for that. But the Bears had one of the league's best defenses. But Marinelli still remembers that the Bears had in Washington a good up and coming young coach. He's really got a presence to him. He's very, very, very detailed, and he's just got a nice way of dealing with people. But he's strong, and he just did a really nice job. He was really a sponge, learning pass rush coming out from college into the NFL. And just the thing I always admired was his work habit. He was in early, worked smart on the details. If you knew he had a chance, so you knew he had a chance to be really good. Washington is now part of the Bears' back to the future plan as the new defensive coordinator. What worked well for Smith and Marinelli 10 years ago started to click during the 2023 season for Coach Matt Eberflus as his defense became one of the league's best. And by the way, if you look at the stats, then maybe you can make an argument that this was one of the better defenses towards the second half of the year, but this is still the team that gave up 41 points to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they gave up 38 points to the Green Bay Packers. This is still a problem. You know what I mean? Who is Brad Biggs? Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't even know. Yeah, follow Brad Biggs. I don't know who Brad Biggs is. Somebody can send me a link or something. Anyway, people say, well, nowadays they don't yell at people. I disagree. I think, especially with the younger players, you have to get after them. That's Corey Wooten. Wooten was a freshman All-American at Northwestern under Washington in 2006. Washington left the Bears in 2008, but Wooten's rise in the NFL was already on track. He was voted first team All Big Ten by league coaches in 2008 and also named team MVP. He was very similar to what he was in college. What I appreciated was that he was going to get the best out of you, and he's going to push you when you think you can't go anymore. And I think that's what everybody needs deep down, especially younger guys. So Corey Wooten, a big fan of Eric Washington, says that he's old school. He's a lot like Rod Marinelli, a military type, especially with the younger guys. And I think that's what you need as a younger guy in this league to take your game to the next level. Alex Brown wasn't a younger guy in 2008. He was in his seventh NFL season when Washington joined the Bears. He has a different story to tell. Remembers how Washington listened to the veterans and learned from them, and then how he provided his feedback. Like, even if I was wrong, he would tell me, like, well, how about we try to look at it this way? And then we'll go down that path for about 10 minutes. And then at the end, it's like, okay, I get it. Instead of saying, no, you're wrong, just another way to actually get to know you're wrong. Brown laughed when he said that, and Washington was good at it. He communicated well, and he connected with established players. He's a likable guy who is now an analyst for NBC Sports Chicago. I think the first thing that comes from being a successful coach is respect. So when you have the respect of your players, then you have a shot. If you don't have the respect of your players, they're not willing to run through the wall. They're not willing to do the things that you're asking them to do. He did a lot of dirty work, and that's what I got. If I wanted to stay after and work on some things I was struggling with, he was all in. He was all for it. So there you have it. Eric Washington. This is going to be a fantastic it's going to be a fantastic thing. Most had Watson as the number one out of that class. That's exactly right. Deshaun Watson was he was a killer coming out of Clemson, and you wouldn't say that now, no, but at that point, absolutely. Like, Deshaun Watson probably would have been a very successful player coming out, getting on a team like Kansas City. Of course, we didn't know Kansas City was going to be who they were and how all the pieces were going to end up fitting in place. I believe Alex Smith started that season, the first season for Patrick Mahomes. So you never know what's going to happen. But let's move on now. And let's get into the free agency stuff. Now, look at this. This is getting very complicated and very wild for the market. Did the Steelers just tip the Chicago Bears' hand at their quarterback decision? Well, how did they do that? They have released Mitchell Trubisky. For those of you that remember, we were just talking about that same draft. Mitchell Trubisky's journey from the Chicago Bears didn't work as planned, and while Trubisky wasn't who the Steelers needed to boost them to the Super Bowl, Mike Tomlin could be eyeing another Chicago quarterback. A lot of stuff coming out right now, all over the place, by the way, saying that Pittsburgh quarterback might be Justin Fields next year. Mike Tomlin was a big fan of Justin Fields. And look, this is about getting the talent out of the guy that you have. This is not, and the Chicago Bears could be in a unique situation in which they have to, what they have to do is get the best player for the position, right? They may feel like that, but for Pittsburgh, their situation is going to be a little bit different. So in the event that the Chicago Bears do something drastic which is very possible, and that is go with Caleb Williams, then the next move here would be, where does Justin Fields go? So it looks like Tomlin might be all in on bringing in Justin Fields. And look, Mike Tomlin is, I mean, how many other? He's what, two Super Bowls, and he's been just a stalwart for that team and a rock for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So whatever he says kind of goes there. So we'll see what happens. 2024 free agency profile is Jaylon Johnson in the long-term plans. And now we're getting into some intriguing questions here. The basics. And the basics are his projected market value is about 15.7. Is he going to get 15.7? He wants more. I mean, this guy wants over $20 million. We're looking at statistically 36 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 4 interception, 10 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, and 1 touchdown. He had a breakout season, establishing himself as one of the NFL's best young quarterbacks. He totaled a career-high 4 interceptions, 36 tackles, and 10 pass breakups in 14 games. He was the highest graded cornerback by Pro Football Focus with a 90.8 grade. And do you know these sons of bitches made Sauce Gardner their number 1 guy, even though he was the highest graded cornerback? While Johnson has been one of the key contributors to the Chicago secondary, the one thing missing from his games was interceptions. After just 1 interception in 3 seasons, Johnson totaled a career high of 4 picks. And he could have had more if not for some drops. But Johnson more than made up for that with his insane coverage skills. In 530 coverage snaps, Johnson allowed just 25 catches on 50 targets for 195 yards and 1 touchdown, earning a coverage grade of 91.0, which ranked first among all cornerbacks. Johnson earned a number of accolades for his impressive 2023 season, which spanned 14 games, including an All-Pro, a second-team All-Pro, and his first Pro Bowl. So the positional need is moderate. Now, here's the thing about the Chicago Bears is they're in a fantastic position in the event that they can't get a deal done with Jaylon Johnson. We want Jaylon Johnson on the team. I think we need to have him in there in that role. However, Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith. Tyreek Stevenson had a fantastic first year. Terrell Smith, as a backup in his first year, also had a really good run as well. And then you have Kyler Gordon. So this is actually a very good cornerback squad overall that, you might be able to plug and play some of these pieces. Now, will you have the best graded guy? Probably not. Could Tyreek Stevenson eventually become that guy? Maybe. Could Terrell Smith? Maybe. Could Kyler Gordon? Probably not. I think Kyler Gordon might not, he might not be that guy. Maybe he's a safety position later on, because you got to do something about Eddie Jackson, right? So you might have to move one of these positions. But if Jaylon Johnson will not play ball, if you will, if you can't seem to get Jaylon Johnson into this, whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you need from Jaylon, if you can't get him in that position, then you've got a good squad. So the Chicago Bears are negotiating from a position of strength, and that does not always end in the best possible way. Given the youth at cornerback, Johnson's presence would not only help elevate the play of the secondary, but give the younger players a veteran leader in the room. Now, that is important. And in the fit with the Bears, he's been a mainstay in Chicago since his rookie season, where he's developed into one of the league's best covers, with the defense ready to challenge as a top 10 unit. Parting ways with your most valuable defensive player would set them back. Now, Ryan Poles has assured us that Jaylon Johnson isn't going anywhere. However, when you're tipping your hat to that and you're telling that and you're giving that to people, well, then Ryan Poles, who by the way didn't draft Jaylon Johnson, is looking to keep him. But if he has to move on, he has to move on, right? So there are no shortage of teams that are going to be bidding for him. So now the other part to this is he is in his 5th year, so we could hit him with the franchise tag and then pay him $18.4 million. Or he could in the 4th. We could make him a franchise tag for 1 season while we negotiate a contract extension that puts him at $18.4 million, a little bit more than certainly what he's making so far. So, but he proved to be one of the biggest, and he's 24 years old. So whatever his extension is going to be the highest in the league. Now, when you look at the available guys, there's not really anybody who stands out overall. So what's the cornerback market going to look like? And that's going to be a big, big, big question coming forward. I think that they're gonna pay him. And so here's the right. So you don't have to do that. That's the problem with this is like you're looking at it from a well, you're lucky to be on this team. He doesn't give a shit what team he's on. He would like to be on the Chicago Bears. He would want to be part of the Chicago Bears, but he doesn't have to be part of the Chicago Bears. That's the thing that we as fans sometimes miss out on. He can go anywhere he wants and he can take whatever money he wants. If he wants to take $10 a year from some random team because he was a big fan of them and give them an enormous pay cut, I mean, I have to pay expenses. It wouldn't be $10, but if he wants to take $3 million because he's a big fan, like one day he was a fan of the New England Patriots and he wants to play for them or something like that, he can do whatever he wants. He's a free agent. He can go out there in his market and do whatever it is he wants. So incentive laden, he doesn't have anything to prove at this point. He's already proven that he's the number one graded cornerback in the league at this point. So incentive laden contracts probably not going to work for him. However, here's what I would posit. If he's a team player and if he is that guy, then here's what you would, if you're Ryan Poles, here's what you would do. You would sign him to a contract, wink, wink, nod, nod, and then you would renegotiate that contract a little bit later on to give yourself some cap room and some cap space. And look, if he's a team player at that point, then he will do that. You already know that he's a guy. You already know he's a guy that really wants to be a Chicago Bear. He's a fan of the Chicago Bears. And it's hard for him to not come out and just say it, because now he's in contract negotiations. His agent is telling him, don't say good shit about the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are just like everybody else. Well, this is his home, for right now for him. So I would say that, we'll see what happens, but I would say that, he's probably that guy. And when I say that, what I mean is you're going to have to pay him. But I also think that he's also the guy who would take a restructured contract more in line, Lord Crimson, with what you're talking about to give him incentives later on. Because if he could make more money from those incentives, then, he'd probably do it. You know what I mean? And those incentives probably don't go part of when you've got a bigger incentive laden contract, that's something, again, you can do that later. First of all, give this guy his signing bonus, whatever his signing bonus is, $40 million or something like that. Change this guy's life once and for all. And then you give him your, the base salary and stuff like that. And then you renegotiate with him. And that's what they'll probably end up doing. So that would seem to be the smart move if the Bears are smart. Now, to move on, we do have a problem. And I want to say that this problem presents itself in a unique sort of way because remember, we were talking about Curtis Samuel the last few days. We've talked about Mike Evans the last few days and how it would cost like $10-15 million to bring in a really good sort of guy, as a wide receiver. If we're not getting it through the draft, which I'm going to show you my draft in just a few minutes, you guys are going to look at it and be like, Jesus Christ, like, you reached. But hey, you know what? We're all reaching, right? I feel like, by the way, I covered almost everything that was a real point of need that couldn't really be addressed in free agency. That's what I went with today. So anyway, projecting a contract for the Chicago Bears wide receiver Darnell Mooney. Now remember, this is very difficult because before the season, we projected Mooney to get a 3-year, $39.5 million deal with $25 million in guarantee. So this guy's looking at like a $12 million a year cap hit, right? Now it might be down to around 8, but he came off of his worst year. He's still got some ability, et cetera, et cetera. Because let's go look here. These are the guys that are in their contract years here. Darnell Mooney shines above them all, really, other than maybe an Alan Lazard when it comes to touchdowns. And then look at the market for each one of these guys. Curtis Samuels, average annual value is 11.5. Now, this is the guy that we're talking about wanting to pair with DJ Moore because they're friends. But look at Darnell Mooney. I mean, Darnell Mooney sticks out as more receptions, more yards, as many touchdowns. And we want to give this guy $11 million and move on from Darnell Mooney. Now, the situation with Darnell Mooney is more of a slot receiver and not that Z type receiver. So, that becomes the issue. If we successfully take anybody else in the draft that would present one of your wideouts, and we allow for that Darnell Mooney is a slot receiver and we give him the opportunity to roam that field and do that, if he's willing to do that. And if that's what he's willing to do, then we want to pay him. And if we could get him in the 8 to 10 million range, I think that's a good deal. I think that's a great deal, in fact, for the Chicago Bears. And I don't know if he's going to take that. That's really the point. Is I don't know that he's going to take that. But here's the other thing to consider. He had a subpar year, and if you weren't paying attention, by the way, last offseason, there were videos coming out of him working out in Miami, which I think is where he probably lives. But he was working out in Miami. He was looking cut. He was looking lean. He was working out. He was adding muscle. Something along the way didn't go as planned. So he didn't have as good a year. But even with that being the case, even with him having a subpar year, let's go back one more time and look at these stats. He still outperformed everybody in that category over the same period of time after coming out of a down year. By the way, last year, I think he had 38 receptions. I want to say 384, something like that, yards. A matter of fact, just for clarity, Roschon Johnson had as many catches as Darnell Mooney. So Darnell did not have the year. And here's the thing. What if the problem, just like Justin Fields, in my estimation, what if the problem was the coaching? What if that was the real problem? Then could it also not be said that the problem with Darnell Mooney, same? Maybe. We weren't utilizing him the right way. Maybe the coaching wasn't you can't, like, at some point you have to put some blame on Justin Fields. You have to. But couldn't it also be that the guy that we kept looking at on the field, that we kept saying, and you were doing it, by the way, just like everybody else. You were looking at this, you were like, what? What? Why would you call that play? What is why are you, oh my God, why are you running on first down? We need, oh my God. Oh my God, why did this guy? Oh my God, why do we just run a screen on 3rd and 18? Like, I know you were thinking it. We were all thinking it. We were all watching the play on the field. We all understood, or felt like we understood, our talent. I think we all understood our talent, and we couldn't understand why we were making that piece of shit play. And I think that some of you were, looking at the game, and you were looking at the players in the interviews afterwards, and you were saying, like, so why did you guys do that? And the players were even saying, I don't know why we did that. I would also not like to be part of that piece of shit play. I don't know why we were making these decisions. I would also not like to be having this conversation with you. And then Luke Getsy would come out, and Matt Eberflus would be right next to him, and he would say, everything is fine. We did a great job. I like to commend everybody on doing awesome. I mean, we only scored 12 points, but we were awesome at scoring 12 points. I mean, we were probably one of the best teams to score 12 points all year long. You know what I mean? Like, hashtag screen pass. Do you know what I mean? Like, Luke Getsy was just checked out of this and had no idea. So I want to say that I think that Darnell Mooney is probably that guy. I think that, bringing him back would be important. But it's really going to come down to what's the cost of keeping him. And along with it, now you got to account for this one. The big lead says that Chris Jones' number one destination right now is the Chicago Bears. So that's going to cost a lot. Chris Jones would come at $25 million a year, maybe a little bit more. So I would I would venture to say that Chris Jones. Look, this changes the dynamic of Chris Jones changes the dynamic of everything. You got to remember how much money you have. 46 million plus 18 ish for Eddie Jackson if you release him, Cody White here, but then you have to replace those guys. So then the question becomes, you got $70 million, 25 is going to Chris Jones, 25 is going to Darnell Mooney. What do you do then? I mean, you cannot put all these players on this team. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they navigate this. And look, if this is the case, if Chris Jones is really seriously on the radar, then you're going to get rid of Justin Jones, obviously. So you might free up a few bucks there. But I mean, Andrew Pickens, like all these guys are on rookie contracts. You don't have that payroll for that. So I mean, maybe Justin Jones is the guy, and he becomes, you swap that. So you're, I mean, I think what's he making? Justin Jones $8 million or $7 million. So you swap that, and that's 18 to the positive. So you're taking $18 million off your payroll overall. So it's you can't afford it, right? And then what do you do next year when you have to pay Justin Fields $25 million and then $40 million after that? Like, that's the end of Justin Fields. No questions asked. But when you get into somebody like this, so I don't think that Ryan Poles is going to be reaching for Chris Jones, even though Chris Jones might be reaching for the Bears. Let's just leave it at that. And let's move on because we got draft stuff to talk about. And so the rumor mill continue. They still wonder if Caleb Williams is pushing to avoid the Chicago Bears. And we're not going to get into it too much, but Dan Graziano reported there is speculation in NFL circles that Williams will use his unique financial leverage to help determine which team selects him. And in this case, obviously, I want to say he wants to be part of the Washington Commanders if given the choice. I think that much should be clear by the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is their offensive coordinator. Washington is doing something very specific, probably for a very specific reason. The NFL rookie wage scale all but eliminated contract negotiation, but Williams may be able to steer himself where he wants to go by threatening to sit out the 2024 season. Now, it is my understanding that he's hired an agent. So that he's hired an agent means that he can't come back after declaring, right? So the Washington Commanders are the Chicago. He's going to have to go wherever. But here's the thing. And by the way, he did state specifically that he will play for the Chicago Bears if drafted by the Chicago Bears. I do want to stress that. And his team came out because Colin Cowherd, I think, came out and said that that's what they said, and they clarified that Chicago probably was not their preferred destination, but that he would play for Chicago if he's drafted by Chicago. So if he doesn't want to play, if he doesn't want to be part of it, Brian Pohl's going to have to make some decisions. And Eli Manning was the last draft pick to force a trade at the number 1 slot, refusing to play for the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers would take Manning at 1, but then trade him to the Giants in a deal that landed Phil Rivers in San Diego. And, to be fair here, like, I don't think that neither one of these guys got a bad deal, by the way, on that trade. So even though Eli won 2 Super Bowls, I think Phil Rivers had a remarkable career. So, but the Chicago Bears cannot pass on this player with the 9th pick, and you know him. We know him. We've been looking at him. We've been watching him kicking the tires every single time. Brock Bowers. So he shows up on some of my drafts. Yesterday, my draft, I think I took him at the 9 position because I was out of receivers. So Brock Bowers presents a legitimate elite George Kittle type, Rob Gronkowski type tight end potentially. Now, all these guys, it's a matter of what you do when you get to the NFL, but the opportunity exists for at the number 9 selection. And by the way, this is very important. At some point, my draft's going to work out probably the right way so that would happen. I'm going to show you my draft in just a minute here, but you'll be able to see, like, when I'm reaching for these guys and I'm trying to get these guys, it gets complicated because you never know what these other teams are going to do. But Brock Bowers, keep him on your radar, at least for right now, and at least consider the makeup, especially after you saw, I do want to say this because this is actually very important. Kansas City ran 3 receiver tight end sets constantly in the Super Bowl. They had their bigs in there. And the cool thing about it is when you have somebody like a Travis Kelce, and Brock Bowers grades out as a Travis Kelce type, not player, but athlete, with situational awareness, similar to somebody like a Travis Kelce, again, or a George Kittle. Like, when you have somebody like that, he changes the dynamic of your team. Cole Kmet, for all that Cole Kmet is a great and an outstanding tight end, some of these guys are next level, and this is potentially one of those next level guys at the tight end position. And if it is, imagine having 2 and 3 receiver sets with Brock Bowers and Cole Kmet crossing the middle, not afraid of the contact, not afraid of blocking hard. I mean, that makes Mercedes Lewis expendable, or does it because he comes back for $1 million? But, suddenly you see a lot of changes in the way Chicago Bears project their offense. So keep watching him. And these are the potential centers. By the way, I had to reach, I'm going to show you my draft in just one more after this one. These were the centers that are available in the draft. And it started off with Jackson Powers Johnson. And then you have Javion Cole, center from Miami, which, shit, you know what? I might have taken him now that I think about it. You have Cedric Van Pran. You have Graham Barton from Duke. And then you have Zach Frazier as well. And then, of course, Jackson Powers Johnson, who is the jewel of this draft and the fan favorite. So now let's look at my draft right here, and you guys will see right here, I took Drake Nugent at number 142 out of Michigan. But so this is my draft right here. I took at the number one overall. I took, and by the way, this is how it was all playing out, right? I took Marvin Harrison Jr. in number one because look, when I ran a couple of mocks, Marvin Harrison was the number one player being taken every single time. So once I started testing it, I saw, look at Caleb Williams here, by the way, just to point this out, guys. And I traded down in the draft. I took the 9 out because I got my wide receiver here. But look, Brock Bowers was number 4. Malik Neighbors was here. And look, one more thing. Roma Dunze was at 9. But once I had Marvin Harrison Jr., I thought, if I can't get Brock Bowers, then I need an edge rusher. That was my thinking, by the way, and my logic. But Marvin Harrison, I picked at number 1. Then it went Drake May, Olufashanu, Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Dallas Turner. I traded I traded the Broncos, and they got Terrion Arnold, and then at number 10, the Jets got Caleb Williams, and then number 11, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then Roma Dunze came in at number 12, Keon Coleman, and by the way, I was thinking about Keon Coleman as well because I know that I'm going to need somebody, for that slot position. And I think he'd fit well there. But then I got Jared Verse at number 14. So now I've solved my wide receiver and I've solved my edge rusher problem, or at least I consider that I did. And then I got into the second round and I got Leonard Taylor, a defensive tackle, because I know that I need somebody to back that up. Justin Jones probably gone. Again, we're probably going to go through. God damn it, I just said it again. Andrew Billings, Zach Pickens, and Gervon Dexter. So I think we needed a backup, and I will take a defensive tackle out of Miami any day. Then I reached down in the draft later on and got Jalen Polk out of Washington. This is the bookend to Roma Dunze. So I thought, you know what? This guy knows what elite looks like if elite is the thing. And then I got James Williams, a safety out of Miami at the 110 pick, just in case we're moving on. Of course, we're moving on from Eddie Jackson, but we would need a body to fill the position while we worked our way through whatever the process is, most probably picking up a safety in free agency. And then I took Jalen Wright at running back for Tennessee. Jalen Wright, I wanted an SEC. I had 2 options, by the way. If you look at the number 122 pick, 122, I picked up Jalen Wright. Marshawn Lloyd was an interesting pick at USC that was available there, but I took him instead. I took Jalen Wright instead. And then I had nothing until we got nothing at the end, by the way. 5th round was the picks that I had, and I took Drake Nugent. Look, the guy won a national title, so Drake Nugent, center out of Michigan, became my guy, and that's the guy that I want to fill up that position with. If I cannot get Connor Williams, if I cannot get Aaron Brewer, if I cannot get somebody in free agency that I want to fill that position, and even if I didn't, I've still got a guy right here in Drake Nugent who is officially a center, but can also play the guard position as well. So I think that's what we went. So to recap here, we took Marvin Harrison with the number 1 overall pick. Then we moved down and took Jared Verse with the number 14 overall. And I think we were lucky to get him at the 14. At the 45, we took Leonard Taylor, defensive tackle out of Miami. At number 81, we got another wide receiver in Jalen Polk out of Washington. James Williams, safety out of Miami. Jalen Wright, running back from Tennessee. And then Drake Nugent, a center from Michigan. So, and really, this was this was all just coming together. Like it was crazy the way this thing was breaking out. Like every time I do this in this mock draft, it was just getting crazier and crazier. Watch this. I'm just going to restart it. We're going to go 7 rounds. We're going to go this, and we're going to hit the draft right here. Now I'm being offered the 11 pick. I'm going to reject that. Now I've got the 3 pick from, okay, watch this. Boom. So now they took Brock Bowers and Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you see that? This is for whatever reason, this thing is just like it's just bonkers, right? So, but look, if this were to happen to me right now, then I mean, it's telling you got to take Caleb Williams, right? I think this draft might be just telling me that I have to take Caleb Williams if I'm a Chicago Bear, because look at this. We've got two selections here. Brock Bowers and Marvin Harrison are off the board. Now, who do I want at this point? Well, I mean, obviously you want to take Caleb Williams because you're moving down, and but we got Malik Neighbors, we got Dallas Turner, we got Roma. Like it's all like right here. So just absolutely bonkers. But here, not to be outdone, let's hit refresh and do it one more time. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to do a fast draft and we're going to do it one more time. We're going to just pop up here. We're going to reject the pick 8. We don't want to pick 8. We don't want to pick 11. We don't want to pick 26. We don't want to pick 13. A 4 is where we probably were going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. That was where we were probably safe in getting Marvin Harrison Jr., but I have no confidence in that. Let's trade one more time with the Patriots and see what the Patriots do. Now they've taken Caleb Williams, and we've got Malik Neighbors being taken as the second guy off of this. Now we're going to reject this trade because now we've got our guy. We got Marvin Harrison Jr. Bam. Now with the 9 pick, what do we have? We got Drake May, we got Brock Bowers, we got Roma Dunze. So now we're going to reject this trade, and we're not worried about that. Now we got Brock Bowers. So now we've taken our 2 guys. So the draft results so far are Marvin Harrison and Brock Bowers. So did we just win the NFL? You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that's the way this thing is breaking out. So but let's move on and let's get into players. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening with players. I'm going to break this down to you as best I can because these are the top 5 landing spots for Justin Fields right now. They're talking about, just in case, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, which we know, Atlanta Falcons, which we also know. So all of these guys are the potential landing spots for Justin Fields. We're not going to talk too much about that, but here's what's changing. The dynamic of this draft, the dynamic of the people talking about everything going on here is, how do we go from Justin Fields won't fetch more than a day 3 pick to Justin Fields is worth multiple firsts in less than a month? So that's, how is all of a sudden this dynamic changing? And look, it's because you're being manipulated. And I want to stress this. The purpose of the media and the purpose of these leaks and this information that's coming out is to deceive you and to mislead you, to get you stuck on, oh, what's going to happen here? So I would question everything at this point. Now, Wild Rodriguez says this, says, I wish my fellow Steelers fans would dead this Justin Fields to Steelers shit. Tomlin said the starter is on the roster, but competition will be brought in. So why trade for someone who is a starter just to potentially bench him? Am I missing something? And I don't think that the guy's thinking logically about it, because I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but that's what's, Vegas has a new favorite here on where Justin Fields is going to play next year, and they're calling for Pittsburgh as well. Just a lot of buzz around Pittsburgh right now, right? But this is where it gets interesting. Now, this is somebody who is a fan of the Chicago Bears. It says, come on, dog, this is even more disgusting on paper. So I'm going to show you this, and then you tell me what was supposed to happen. In 2021 and 2022, Justin Fields' first and second year, this is the lineup. These are the lineups of wide receivers. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, oh, whoa, Allen Robinson. Well, I did too. And let's go over here and let's look at Allen Robinson because we had him for the year before when he had 102 receptions for 1,250 yards. And then in 2021, did he get broken by Justin Fields? That was that's a fair question to ask, right? Well, he only had 38 receptions in 12 games. So he was injured for 4 games. So he probably would have had a better year, but he still was not, he wasn't crushing it, right? So then he goes to the LA Rams, and what does he do? 33 receptions. So what does he do? He goes to Pittsburgh for an entire year and only has 34 receptions. So I would posit that in 2021, going back over here, what we saw was a team that we thought Allen Robinson was going to be the guy because he had a great year, and the wheels fell off Allen Robinson. So what was your 2021 wide receiver core while you're talking about, well, I don't know why Justin Fields didn't throw for 5,000 yards in his first season. I mean, he had Tyreek Hill or something like that, or some wild shit like, well, he also had Travis Kelce. No, he had Damiere Byrd, Marquise Goodwin, Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome, and Allen Robinson. That's what it was. Now, the second year over here in the 2022 pool, you had Chase Claypool, N'Keal Harry, Velus Jones Jr. Guys, stop. Dante Pettis, Byron Pringle, and Equanimous St. Brown. Like, that's what that's like, really, this is, that's what you presented to him. Here is proof that Allen Robinson, again, by the way, loved Allen Robinson. This guy was a great guy coming out of Penn State. Like, I mean, he was, look at these, the 98 receptions, 102 receptions. Like, this was a good receiver. This was a good guy. And the wheels just came off, and he got old, basically. He got old. So that's what happened. Now, and then we got more over here. Sam the Block from the Block Spot is now saying that the NFL is better when Pittsburgh is. And this is what's happening, right? This is the narrative that you're seeing, and I hope that you guys are seeing this narrative play out with the rest of the league. Justin Fields to the Steelers would be great for the NFL. Why? Because the NFL is better when Pittsburgh is a legit Super Bowl contender. So you've got a team here in the Pittsburgh Steelers saying that, hey, or you've got a guy with an opinion, not the team, but they consider that Justin Fields is a Super Bowl worthy player. It's insanity to me that we're looking at Caleb Williams and being like, oh, I think maybe we should take this guy. When we're looking at somebody that's coveted by other teams in this league as a Super Bowl type player. Does not mean Justin Fields is Super Bowl type, but it means that the rest of the league is looking at this and other teams are saying, you know what? Yeah, we could probably get there with this guy. So really weird. Now, DJ Moore, a couple of quotes here. And by the way, these are unfair quotes, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But it says, I'm an advocate for Justin because he's a good quarterback. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds, and I'm going to stick with Justin and then trade back. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. This guy, DJ Moore is giving you kind of the blueprint here for what he thinks that should happen. Like he's giving you just kind of this idea here of this is what the team would look like. But also, the other thing that he said, and I'm not going to post it here, but we're going to quote it. He said, oh, by the way, if something happens and Justin gets traded, then I'm going to be all in on Caleb Williams because I'm going to do my best. My job is to go out here and perform my best every single day and do my job. So, no matter what, DJ Moore understands the league and he understands what's happening. So he will, in the event that Caleb Williams is here, he is all aboard with Caleb Williams. But if you ask him what he prefers Justin Fields by a long stretch. So next up, we haven't heard a thing from Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. I doubt that Justin Fields has gotten any sort of playbook from him either. Not true, as a matter of fact. This guy, Ben Devine from Chicago NFL, lying to you. Turns out that all of them have had conversations with Shane Waldron as well, and DJ Moore indicated as such. So just a big lie. Now, another thing that you might have seen on the internet is this right here, and this is a chart indicating average time to throw versus scramble rate, right? Well, look at the numbers up here, and you've got Justin Fields grading out really highly up here, along with Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tommy DeVito, Josh Allen, Zach Wilson, Joshua Dobbs, and Jalen Hurts. So, does that mean anything? Puts him in select company, I would want to say, but I don't think it really means anything. I think the part that you should pull from this, in so much as there is something to pull, is this right here. This is an absolute outlier. The best players in the league are not taking that long to make their passes and their plays. Now, we know the talent that Lamar Jackson represents. We see that on the field every single day, right? So, this is a good ratio, but he's got under 3-second timing on his throws, just like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. So it should be noted that, in some context, Justin Fields is in kind of select company, but the other thing is it has taken him a very, very long time to make decisions. He has got to be faster. If he wants to survive in the NFL, he's got to be faster. I mean, we should be able to look at this and say, yeah, Justin Fields is not really crushing it, right? And the scramble rate, not that bad. Like I would posit to say that Tyrod Taylor, Daniel Jones, New York, probably really bad line. Lamar Jackson just runs, and then you have Justin Fields. So, and we know that the offensive line struggled just a little bit, but I would contend to say that this offensive line really started to come together towards the end of the season. And again, halfway point of this year, this was a different team. They ended 5-3. So, it should be fair to at least look at it and say, Justin's got to be better. Justin has got to be way better. Now, there's a deeper one here. What happens when each team drops back? Um, it's the green is target. So you see down here, Justin Fields and the Bears do not grade out very well here at 73% versus some of these other higher passing teams. But how many times do you scramble? 9% of the time. That's the highest in the league, not named the New York Giants or the Baltimore Ravens. We saw that on the last chart. Then you have how many times did they throw it away? And the throwaway percent was 6% here. 4% down here, 3% over here. You're maybe holding on a little bit, trying to make too much of a play. Same thing in these are the worst ratings right here for throwing it away. So what about sacks? 8% sacks. Again, this is a high range on everything. The Bears are clocking in at a very high range on all of the bad parts of the quarterback position. And then you have battled passes or broken incompletions. 4%. Again, there's a 5% up here, but 4% represents the top of the league. So, Justin Fields has got to be better. I mean, and we have to be able to recognize that we've got to have he's got to do better, right? Then we have career screen passes on notable wide receiver prospects. And once you look at this is a little bit weird because we're talking about Malik Neighbors. Look at Malik Neighbors, who clocks in right up here in his ratio, and look who's right next to him out of Maryland, DJ Moore. Be interesting to see. Like, guys, I told you that Malik Neighbors is one of those kind of guys, right? Well, this is where he kind of grades out when it comes to it. And look down here, Rome Odunze, way out here, just absolutely going bonkers. And then Marvin Harrison clocks in way down here. This is on screens, so Marvin Harrison is a down the field guy, not a screen guy. But look at the yak. Look at the yards after the catch. DJ Moore, a little over 12. Malik Neighbors, around 13 yards. Um, that's an average, which means that they're catching the ball and should basically be good for almost a first down every single time. You know what I mean? And same thing for Roman Dunze when he gets the screen here. Again, rare, but when you get the screen, just absolute. These guys are absolute ballers. These guys are absolute ballers. So interesting stuff here. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's really kind of wild here. If we could, there we go. This is right here. If Fields was more accurate, Mooney might have caught some of them. DJ Moore disguised some of them inaccuracies, not a diss on Justin Fields, just facts. And that is absolutely correct. And you have to ask the question, how much of that is Justin Fields just not being accurate? And look, we've seen some plays out of Justin Fields toward the second half of the season that we did not see before, or we wouldn't have seen, or didn't look as good. And look, I would posit to say that there are young hustle gang. You know what? This is fair enough. Like you can make that assessment and you can make that argument, but facts do still matter, and we do have to point up. And this is dropped passes in the NFL 2023. NFL teams with the most drop passes. The number one drop passes team was the Kansas City Chiefs, 44 dropped passes in the 2023 season. You know who had fewer? The Chicago Bears had 19 dropped passes. So that's not it. It's not the drop passes. It's not the drop passes. It's your ability to overcome those drop passes and continue to move and march the ball. And I'll be fair here. Like I want to be completely fair to Justin Fields here. This is the coaches. The coach's job is to get the team in the position to move the ball down the field. That to me represents a coaching issue. When you look at the number of drop passes and then look at success rate, the Chiefs, the Browns, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Lions. I mean, these are all playoff teams, right? Each every one of those was playoff teams. So the top five, I don't know if the Colts were in there. The Bengals, I'm pretty sure were in there, right? And the Bills were in there. So the best teams have a lot of drop passes. But Chicago Bears, not even close. Not even close. The problem, and Lord Crimson actually points this out. Fields is not allowed to call audibles. He was not allowed in Luke Getsy's scheme to call audibles. He was not able to check down and he was not able to change plays. That's bad. That's when you're not allowed to do what you're best at, when you're not allowed to look at this defense and say, I know what's coming. Here's what happens. Just imagine this, right? If you know you're going to lose, I just want to pause it to you guys one thing, because again, I'm not a Justin Fields maxi. I'm a Chicago Bears maxi, but I think Justin Fields gives them the best chance to win. So I would ask you this question. If you went in and you saw a scheme coverage that said that they were rushing 7 and you only had 6 defenders in your set, you're getting sacked. You're getting sacked. You've got 7 defenders coming at you, and you've got 6 blockers. So you don't have time to throw the ball. But the offensive coordinator has called something where you need 3 seconds for the play to develop. So you're probably going to get sacked, or you're probably going to be running in fear for your life. So that's the case. What would you do? You would if you knew you had 7 rushers, what would you do? Screen? Would you just run the ball, hand it off, and go to the next play? What would you do? Because that you're trying to trick them. Well, guess what? Justin Fields couldn't do that. He wasn't allowed to do that. So what do you have to do? You have to look, oh, I'm going to get killed today. Ha 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 ha. This is fine. And then you had to take it, and then you just had to get wrecked every single time when you had a bad play call because you were not allowed to check out of what the coach called. That's crazy. That's crazy. And no, he said that he had the ability to audible, and everybody else on the team was no. So, did he have an audible? He never called an audible. So, I mean, you know what? And you know what? To be fair, maybe, maybe Justin Fields but if he is, then why are we defending Justin Fields? That would be that would be the thing. Justin Fields audibles. Why doesn't Justin Fields do audibles? Why doesn't Justin Fields audible out of these bullshit plays? He's not a rookie. He should be playing for his life. He isn't allowed to. The great Getsy knows all. There we go. Here's what he's allowed to do. Justin can throw a screen to the left or audible and throw it to the right. So, and by the way, this goes on over and over again. And for people to say, "Oh, well, yeah, he absolutely can do that. He could he could do that. He can do that." But the real thing is this. If you're never doing something, and even the media is saying you're not allowed to do something, and somewhere you're saying something different, and that's not the case. Like you were everybody in the NFL gets a job. That doesn't mean anything. Everybody in the NFL gets a job. As a matter of fact, the one team that the Chicago Bears looked really good against and beat 30-12, I want to say, the Los Angeles Raiders, he got hired by the Raiders. So yeah, and here's the other part. Just because Luke Getsy is a good play caller for a drop back quarterback doesn't mean that he can play and he can run a dynamic guy like Justin Fields. And if you didn't watch, and Mike Jameson, I swear to God, you're probably not a fan of the Chicago Bears to begin with. You're just here to argue, or you're a Caleb Williams, Maxey, or something like that. I mean, I don't know. No. Um, and was Bajent able to audible? Bajent got slower and slower in the games that he played. So his read times, and by the way, didn't they do an entire game where he only threw screen passes? So you tell me, do you think do you think he called an audible for a screen every single time? Do you think that that was the play? Do you think that that was the move, Mike Jamison? I mean, because come on, you're embarrassing yourself at this point. If you think that Tyson Bagent was able to just audible out of everything, and what he did was he said, you know what, let's go with another screen. Go ahead, convince everybody of that one. Anyway, guys, you have a great day. This is I got an interview that I got to do in about 30 minutes, so I got to get ready and I got to get out of here. I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping in. We'll be doing this again tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's figure this out. Tomorrow we're going to do a big draft one more time. We're going to figure out what's going on. We'll get all the news, everything you need, and bear down, and we'll talk to you again